Hey everybody, Shaman Hawk here for Shamanic Lodge. I'm going to talk a little bit about shamanic fire healing. And different shamans have different ways of doing this. Mine in particular is to have like a regular campfire outside, and I'll put different offerings into that fire to be burned, and then people, traditionally the way I was taught, it goes up into the ethers through the smoke, and once the flame has taken this thing and turned it into the smoke and the ashes, then it can go anywhere, everywhere, all the time. The other thing that I eventually evolved into doing was a different fire meditation. And when I say evolved into doing, one of the most important things in real shamanic training is your teacher and master is supposed to help you become unique in your shamanism. So we all have this foundation. Same way in construction. You're going to build a foundation a certain way that allows strength to be put upon it. And from that, you have the basic shell of the house or the basic description of what a shaman should be. But after that, you're going to adhere into the construction part of that house, that building, that shaman. But you have more freedom to make it unique. There's still that methodology that's correct. You're going to go use that correct methodology in your teaching applications, but you want to be able to really encourage that person to be unique and then allow them to understand that process. So when you're no longer around them, or your apprentice, they continue that unique evolution to be the best shaman they can be in their core truth to help the people who really relate to them. And this is why I said it's so important that more good shamans get out there, because their people are just so variable. So I evolved into this part where I would do the traditional offerings into the fire with the same traditional mentality behind that. But I also looked, as I evolved more into the quantum aspects of shamanism, it's really about the thought. And then I learned too that since we can live alternate realities at the same time, and since, like different parts of the atomic world can be one place in many different times or at the same time, I looked at why can't I use myself as the vessel for the healing? And now empaths do this all the time. I mean, I used to do it with my daughters when they were small. I'd hold them close to me, bring in the fever, and then when I released the fever from myself, and they were better. Kids get that eyes, ears, nose, throat infections that was going around so much back in the early 80s. And then people were putting them kids on amoxicillin, maintenance antibiotics. And I wasn't going to do that. I believe it's just supporting the immune system. But sometimes, kids are around so many different things, as adults are, and their immune system still growing. You just have to keep boosting or supporting it. And so that was my way, so I would use myself and like bring their ailment, their sickness into me so I can release it and then release it to them. Well, you're not going to be hugging and holding or cuddling up to other people's kids. So there has to be a different way of doing that. And I'm like, well, if it's interdimensional time displacement is a phrase I like to use in English, then we can be anything we want to be as far as in our spiritual realm, astral plane or whatever. But again, the proof is how efficient and real is a proof on the physical plane. And I thought, well, if I'm working on somebody far away, I can take the herbs myself and empath their feeling and somehow maybe mix it all together and send it back to them energetically. And I've worked with this, experimented with it, and then finally fine-tuned it in a way where I'm like, okay, now I think I have a system. And again, this is part of being that unique shaman. You have to test things. You have to get proof on the physical plane that your theories work and are applicable in everyday life. And it's another part of energy healing, shamanic healing, energy healing. And so I developed this system that I like to do with different herbs. I've been interested in herbs since a kid. And I'll make these teas. And I will have them next to the fire, and I make the tea. And I drink the tea thinking of the person that I'm working on. Now, about Central Texas time, around 6 in the evening on today, I'm not even sure what the date is today. Hold on. Wednesday, November 16th. Okay. And 2022. So I'll be doing that in the evening. And so a lot of you won't see this and be able to catch up with that. But the same you can follow for the next video. But I'll be working on this boy in Russia, near Moscow. And when I looked at that, it's like it's been a while since I've worked with kids. The last time was in Hungary, about 4 or 5 years ago, a boy with cancer in a sweat lodge. And it's not too often anymore I do that. I did a lot of it in the early 90s, late 80s, actually a lot in the 70s. And but that's just been my wave. Now I spend more time teaching parents how to do it with their kids. But I looked at this, and Russia's in the news a lot, so. But when people look at these situations worldwide, it's always about the adults and the adult political figures. That's where all the world's focus is on. And right now it's Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. Those are the big three names. And then China's off on the side a little bit. And I'm like, okay, so there's like three guys in the news on the big stories about Ukraine, Russia, NATO, all that. But what about the millions of children? Okay, no matter what adults do, okay, in any kind of bad thing, it all has that trickle-down effect to the children. And so, as I do this healing fire for this boy in Russia, at the same time, I'm really going to be thinking about all the kids in that region. The kids in Russia that are, enduring hardships because the rich adult politicians are putting sanctions on, and thinking about the children in the different parts of Ukraine that are dealing with warfare. The horror of warfare. It's scary for a man from this Marine's view. But for a child, when you're in those kind of environments and you see the look of the children, and that they're not going to heal from that. So I want to ask people, if you happen to see this, and you can be there I might do a live on this if the internet works here, or I might have to just tape it, my session with the fire tonight. But on a side note, let's all participate in a shamanic healing of your own way, of thinking about all the children and what they're dealing with, and all the stuff that's happening now. And not just in the war zones, but in starving countries and in areas that are affected by floods, earthquakes, fires, all these other things. Because there's, at least a couple billion of kids affected by what adults do most directly. There's always the natural disasters, yep. But after the natural disasters, everything else is all man-made stuff, and it always affects children. Just going to put that out there. Anyway, so if you happen to tune in on the live tonight, great. If not, I'll catch you guys later, and I'll post a video and talk about it a little bit. All right.